Every strong female lead you see in movies today, the one who fights back and never gives up, someone wrote her first in 1847.
1847. That's almost 200 years ago.
Charlotte Brontë, a young woman from a tiny English village. She had 3 sisters, all of them were writers.
All of them? That's a writing family.
But here's the thing, Charlotte used a fake name. Currer Bell, a man's name.
Why a man's name?
Because in 1847, women couldn't publish novels. And this book, it shook the whole country. The main character is Jane Eyre, poor, plain, alone. But she never lets anyone break her. She looks a rich man in the eye and says, "Do you think I have no soul, no heart?"
She actually said that? To a rich man?
To his face, and that's just one scene. Let's hear Jane's story from the very beginning. It starts in a house where nobody wanted her.
Jane Eyre was an orphan. Her parents died when she was a baby. She lived with her aunt, Mrs. Reed, at a place called Gateshead. But Mrs. Reed hated Jane. She treated her like a stranger. Jane's cousin John was the worst. He hit her and called her names. Even the servants looked away when John hurt her. Jane had one escape. She would hide behind a curtain and read. Books were her only friends. One day, John threw a book at her head, hard. And for the first time, Jane fought back. They punished Jane for fighting. They locked her in the Red Room. This was the room where her uncle had died. Dark red curtains, a huge bed, a mirror on the wall. Jane saw her own pale face in the glass. She looked like a ghost. She screamed. She begged them to let her out. But Mrs. Reed kept the door locked. That night changed Jane forever. She stood in front of Mrs. Reed and said something no one expected. "You are a bad woman. You are cruel, and I will never forget." Mrs. Reed sent Jane away to a school called Lowood. Lowood was cold, the food was burned, the water was freezing. The headmaster, Mr. Brocklehurst, was a hard man. He told the students to be simple and plain, but his own daughters wore silk and ribbons. On Jane's first day, he made her stand on a chair. He told everyone she was a liar, in front of the whole school. Jane wanted to disappear, but then a girl smiled at her. Her name was Helen Burns, and she changed Jane's life. Helen was gentle, kind, and very wise for her age. She taught Jane something new: patience, forgiveness. For the first time, Jane had a real friend. But then sickness came to Lowood, a terrible fever called typhus. Girls fell sick one by one. The dirty rooms made it worse. Helen did not have typhus. She had something worse. One night, Jane crept to Helen's bed and lay beside her. "Where are you going, Helen?" Jane whispered. "I'm going to God." When morning came, Helen was cold and still. She was gone. 8 years passed. Jane grew up at Lowood. She became a teacher there, but she wanted more. She wanted to see the world, so she found a new job: a governess at a grand house called Thornfield Hall. The housekeeper, Mrs. Fairfax, was warm and kind. Jane's student was Adele, a lively little French girl. Thornfield was big and beautiful, but something felt wrong. Late at night, Jane heard a strange laugh from the 3rd floor. One winter evening, Jane walked out to post a letter. The road was covered in ice. The sky was turning dark. A man on a horse came riding fast. The horse slipped and fell. Jane rushed to help him. The man was rough and serious. He did not thank her. He barely looked at her. Jane went home. and then she found out who he was. Mr. Rochester, the owner of Thornfield Hall. He was not handsome, not gentle, but he spoke to Jane as an equal. One night, Jane smelled smoke in the hallway. She ran to Rochester's room. His bed was on fire. Rochester lay there, eyes closed, breathing in the smoke. Jane threw water on the flames and saved his life. Rochester looked up at the third floor. His face was dark. "Tell no one about this," he said. "I will handle it." The next morning, everyone blamed a servant named Grace Poole. But Grace was calm, too calm. Thornfield's secret grew deeper. A beautiful woman came to Thornfield, Blanche Ingram. Everyone said Rochester would marry her. Rich, elegant, tall. Jane watched them together and felt her heart break. She decided to leave. She went to Rochester to say goodbye. But Rochester did not let her go. Under a chestnut tree in the garden, he asked Jane to marry him. Jane's voice shook with anger and love all at once. "Do you think, because I am poor and plain, I have no soul? I have as much soul as you, and as much heart." Rochester chose Jane. The wedding day arrived. Jane stood at the altar. The priest was about to speak. Then a man stood up. "Stop! This marriage cannot happen. He already has a wife." Rochester went silent. Then he took everyone upstairs, to the third floor, to a locked room. Inside was a woman, wild hair, wild eyes, growling like an animal. Her name was Bertha Mason, Rochester's first wife. He had married her 15 years ago in the West Indies. He did not know she was mad, and now she lived in his attic. Jane loved Rochester, but she could not stay. She would not live with a man who already had a wife. Rochester begged her. He cried. He promised her everything. But Jane said the words that define her whole character. "I care for myself. The more alone I am, the more I will respect myself." Before sunrise, she left Thornfield with nothing. No money, no food, just her small bag and her pride. She walked across the moors until she collapsed at a stranger's door. The Rivers family took Jane in, St. John, Diana, and Mary. Jane got better. She found a job as a village teacher. Then came a surprise. Jane was their cousin. And she inherited £20,000 from a dead uncle. Jane shared the money with all of them, equal parts. But St. John wanted something more. He asked Jane to marry him. Not out of love. He wanted a partner for his mission to India. His proposal felt cold, like a duty, not like love at all. Jane almost said yes to St. John. She almost gave in. Then one night, she heard something impossible. Rochester's voice, calling her name across the wind. "Jane, Jane, Jane," hundreds of miles away. She could not explain it, but she felt it in her bones. She had to go back. She had to find Rochester. Jane packed her things and left that very night. Jane returned to Thornfield, but the house was a ruin. Bertha had set fire to everything. Then she jumped from the roof. Rochester tried to save the servants. He lost a hand and an eye. Jane found him sitting alone in a dark room. He was blind. He was broken. He thought Jane was gone forever. "Jane, is that really you?" His voice trembled. "Reader, I married him." That is the most famous line in the book. Jane did not come back out of pity. She came back as his equal. She had money now. He had nothing but love, and that was enough.
Wow, that ending.
She went back to him after everything.
Right? Now let's go back to the very start. Jane is an orphan, alone from the day she was born.
Orphan, both parents gone?
Gone, and the family she has, they treat her like nothing. But here's what changes everything: the Red Room. They lock a child in a room where a man died. And after that, Jane snaps. She tells Mrs. Reed, "You are cruel, I will never forget."
A 10-year-old said that to an adult?
That's Jane. Truth first, consequences later. Then Lowood, a school that feels more like a prison. The headmaster brands her a liar in front of everyone.
Branded, like marked?
A label that sticks. After that, everyone stares. But one girl sees past it. Helen Burns.
So Helen was strong, like Jane?
The opposite. Gentle, patient. That's what made her special. Imagine this. You're 10 years old. Your only friend is dying. You hold her hand. She whispers, "I am going to God."
Knowing what happens later, this part hits harder.
Helen taught Jane to endure, to keep going no matter what.
Endure? That means to suffer through it?
To bear it, to survive without breaking.
And Jane endures everything after this, because of Helen.
8 years later, Jane becomes a governess.
What's a governess?
A private teacher. She lives in a rich family's home. Thornfield seems peaceful, but that laugh upstairs? Brontë is planting a clue. We'll come back to that. And then Rochester, he falls off a horse. Jane helps him. He doesn't even say thank you.
So Rochester is basically the villain?
No, broken, not evil. That's the difference. He talks to Jane as an equal. No one else does.
Equal, same level?
Same level, same value. That word is the key to this whole book. Then one night, Rochester's bed catches fire. Jane saves him, and he says, "Tell no one."
Why hide that?
Because he knows exactly who did it. Not the servant, someone much closer.
Knowing the truth now, all those clues make sense.
Now, the proposal, this is the heart of the book. Jane thinks Rochester will marry Blanche Ingram.
The beautiful one?
Right, so Jane decides to leave. But Rochester stops her, and Jane explodes. "Do you think because I am poor and plain I have no soul?"
So plain just means ugly?
No, ordinary. Nothing stands out, and Jane owns it. But what happens at the wedding? That changes everything. Wedding day, the church, the priest is speaking. A man stands up. He already has a wife. Remember that laugh from the 3rd floor?
That was her, this whole times.
Bertha Mason, Rochester was deceived into marrying her.
Deceived? So he was tricked?
Tricked, lied to. He never knew she was ill.
15 years. That's a long secret to keep.
And now Jane has to choose. Stay with the man she loves or leave.
That line, "I care for myself." She's choosing herself.
In 1847, that was revolutionary.
She's not choosing against love. She's choosing both.
She refuses to sacrifice her self-respect.
Sacrifice? Giving up something you treasure?
Exactly, she endured so much, but she won't give this up. Then St. John Rivers, the opposite of Rochester. Handsome, moral, and completely cold.
At least Rochester had real feelings.
Bad feelings, but feelings.
St. John wants a tool for India, not a wife. Jane sees through both of them. Then one night, Rochester's voice across the wind. "Jane! Jane! Jane!"
Is that real, or is it her heart?
Brontë never tells us. That's the beauty of it. Thornfield is gone, burned to the ground. Rochester lost a hand and an eye.
And Jane still goes back?
The same orphan from Gateshead, now with money and freedom. Reader, I married him. The most famous line in this book.
She's not going back out of pity.
No, as his equal, finally, truly equal. Remember how we started? Do you think I have no soul, no heart? Now you know it wasn't just anger.
She was saying, I matter.
Exactly, that was her declaration.
Plain, poor, alone, and she never broke.
What about you? What would you never give up? Tell us in the comments. See you next time.